Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson of the Thriving in Motherhood podcast, and today we're going to talk about tips and strategies for using nap time well, being productive during nap time. Comes from a great question that was asked in our community here, and if you haven't asked a question for the podcast, you can do that at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/podcast and leave a little voicemail for me, and I would love to be able to answer your question here on the show because it probably someone else has that same question too, and it also allows me to actually help with the things that you're thinking about right now. So send your questions my way, and we're going to go ahead and jump into nap time today.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation, and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
I want to take just a moment and share a free gift that I've created for you called 3 Secrets to Do More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. This workshop is available for you to go watch right now and start taking action on so that you can do more of what you want to do, more of what's on your heart, more of what is important to you. With your children at home. You don't have to wait for them to be in school or for you to have loads of time. There are ways to start moving forward right now. And you can check that out at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/workshop.
Hi, Jessica. I'm Michelle, and I'm a mom of two and under. And I've been struggling a little bit with nap times. I want to use my time well during nap time, and I've been trying to start a little side business. But I always feel like I'm exhausted often and tired, and I just want to nap. Or there's so many other things that I really want to do during nap time that I struggle to actually be consistent in doing what I want to do, and I just kind of sometimes jump from one thing to the other because I feel like all the things need to be done, and I don't really feel motivated because I'm tired and I want to just rest and nap and just be on my phone, and I still want to use that time to be productive, but it's just been a struggle. Do you have any advice for me?
Yes, I do. So, I relate that. I don't think there's a single mom listening that hasn't felt that way and done those things during nap time, right? Like we do want to use that time well, and there is that internal struggle of like feeling exhausted and also knowing like this is gold, right? So as I was listening to your question, I noticed you brought up so many great things. And it's a very like multi-layered answer here. So I noticed that you talked about, exhaustion, feeling exhausted. We talked about making consistent progress in your side business, identifying the priority when it feels like there's so many things to do, lacking motivation, wasting time on phone, right? Like there's so many layers to this with the ultimate desire of like, you want to be intentional, right? And I respect that so much. Now I will say there are we go into so much detail on all of these things in the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. And I have so much to say about it, which is why I created like the whole course there. But I'm going to be very thorough here too, because I really do want to help you. So we're going to look at all of these individually and just help give you some things to think about, because I love the story in Atomic Habits that was told about a bicycle team. I want to say it's the British team. I probably should have looked this up, but it just came to mind. A bicycle team wanted to shave their time off the race, right? They wanted to be faster. And so instead of just being pump, move your legs harder, right? To get faster, they looked at everything holistically and figured out how can we get 1% better? How can we have clothing that's more aerodynamic? How can we have you sit on the bike? What food can you eat? They took a very multi-layered approach to that problem of how can we be faster on our bikes. And and found ways to shave off just like milliseconds here and there. And it added up to be incredible, and they made incredible gains. And so I feel like your question is similar. We can answer, that one way of like, well, just pedal faster. Or we can look at it through this lens of what are all the tiny little things that we can do that will add up to make a really big difference when it comes to being intentional at nap time. So with that in mind, let's break down all of these different things that you brought up and see maybe where there's these little shifts, changes, 1% better tweaks that you can make to feel better about lots of things, about the exhaustion, about making progress on the things that matter to you, and about feeling like you're being intentional with that time. So the first thing is exhaustion. And if you've got 2 kids under 2, that's probably like a really good reason. I would guess you might still be waking up during the night with them. Days are full. Like it's just a demanding season with those young children. I'm saying that as a mom of 4 kids that are all under the age of 10. Like I get it. So, taking a nap during nap time could actually be incredibly productive because it recharges you and basically gives you like a whole nother second day where you're like reset and ready to go and feel better and like maybe more emotionally stable. So taking a nap, like you said, you can. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't take a nap during nap time if it helps recharge you. Now, the other part of this too is that when I'm tired, it's like really hard, to make good choices about what I'm doing with my time, but 2, just to think clearly. Like if I want to do this high level work, like you're saying for your business, like it's hard to do high level thinking and make progress effectively when you're exhausted. It just is. And so one of the things we do in the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program, one of the first thing we do is do energy mapping and just become self-aware of do you have high energy versus low energy? Because that's unique to every single one of us. And then start aligning your tasks accordingly so that you're not just trying to like muscle through and force yourself to do things that aren't working. But instead like work with yourself, work with your natural rhythms. Like, for example, like I'm a morning person. And so I would much rather get up and work really hard early in the morning before my kids wake up. I do not do this all the time, by the way, but there's some seasons when I do. And then definitely sleep hard during nap time because I know that middle of the day, I am not thinking clearly and it is not my best work. There's other seasons where it's like, you know what? I know nights are crazy. I would much rather sleep in and get a good rest in the morning so my day starts off better. Just because I'm more stable in the morning, and then maybe still take a little bit of a power nap and work for a little bit in the afternoon. So there's no like open and shut hard fast, but the point is like become aware of when it's easy for you to do things and when it's hard. Maybe you're a night owl. My husband's a night owl and he would much rather wait till the kids go to bed and muscle through on a project for like many hours into the night. So what's natural for you? Yeah. So that is exhaustion. If you're exhausted, take a nap. Let yourself take a nap. Don't feel like you shouldn't take a nap if you're tired, because everything else will go easier. You'll be way more efficient. You'll think way more clearly, and you'll actually be able to get things done. And then notice when you actually are energized and awake and see if you can align your work time with that. So, all right, the next thing we're going to talk about is making consistent progress on your business. So I don't talk about less, but so if you don't have a business here and you just want to be more intentional at that time, you have projects you want to do, or you want to manage like household things or do your finances, whatever it is, like you've got something you want to do during quiet time and you want to make consistent progress. So this principle is that little baby steps add up over time. So in our next 90 days program, we have like a whole module on figuring out how to identify what your next little baby step is. But simple principle here to just start trying is if it feels hard to do the next, your task, it's too big. How can you make it so easy to do your next baby step? And that's when you know it's the right size baby step. It should not feel hard to do your next step. So for example, if I want to order a bookcase, my next step is not go order a bookcase. It's to find the measuring tape so that I can then have another step of measuring the space, so that I can then have another step of researching what size bookcases are available, so that I then can order it. Do you see how I broke one step, order a bookcase, into 4, and it started with just find my measuring tape? I want you to start thinking that way about your tasks. And again, I help you a ton with that in the next 90 days program. But we then want to take that concept and apply it to having a weekly big 3. And I've done a whole podcast episode about big 3s again. But the idea is that if you know what your little task is that you want to do, then when you actually have time to do during nap time, maybe after you've taken a 20-minute power nap and you still have 30 minutes to go before your kids wake up or want you again, then it's a lot easier to just jump into that thing when you've already identified what it is that you need to be doing. And if you haven't done that yet, it's really, really, really hard to build up that inertia, to overcome the inertia and to get started. So I like to make it, again, anytime I'm trying to do something and do it well and do it consistently. I've mentioned this before on so many different areas of life, but how can I set up the environment to make it easy to do the thing that I want to do? So if I know I want to make progress on something during nap time, I first of all take a power nap because I will sleep better. And then on the bed next to me, I have my computer. My phone is across the room, so it's not a distraction. I have my planner. I've already written out the tasks that I want to do, so I don't have to think about it. I know exactly what my next step is. And then when I wake up, I just grab it and start working right then. I don't have to leave my room. I don't have to go gather materials. I don't have to figure it out what it is that I want to do. I know exactly what I want to do, and it's set up for me. And the things that I don't want to do, scroll mindlessly on my phone, is made harder by moving it away from me so that when I wake up, I cannot even grab it if I want to. All right, so you also mentioned identifying priorities when it feels like there are so many things to do. Now, this just happens, right? Because there's so much going on in life and it can start to feel like you're buried and piled up. And I just experienced it this weekend, like legitimately was feeling completely overwhelmed and not sure what to do next because everything was screaming at me. And I couldn't figure out which one was loudest. So I just took some time and I decided to create a no weekend for myself. And I told my kids, I'm not helping with all these projects. We just got to pause for a second. And I'm not going to all the extra things. We're just going to pause for a second because I need time to get a hold on something after just going hard for so long. We've been going fast for weeks and we are actually fast for months. So I needed a moment to just pause and collect my thoughts. And a few things that I noticed. First of all, environment, again, matters so much. So are you in a cluttered, messy space? Because that is just signals to me that I am stressed and overwhelmed and there's things too much to do. And so I just spent a little bit of time just tidying up. It doesn't have to be amazing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just creating some calmness in your environment makes a big difference. It's something I never would have done when I had the really little kids. I think we really cleaned up well occasionally. Very rare. But that's something that I've really started to value the older my family gets. And the more of them there are, and the messier it is, because we have so much going on. But the other thing I did is I sat down, I wrote down a list. And I started by writing down just those 2-minute tasks. What are all those things that I haven't done yet that are nagging on my brain that I would like to do? So for example, I had pink eye a few weeks ago. No one else in my family got it. Don't know where I got it. I had it. And so I needed to boil my contact case so I could start with my contacts again. Silly, right? But not getting attended to. So things like that. I just wrote down those 2-minute tasks on the paper. And then I wrote down then it was just like a brain dump. And so from here, depending on what feels good, I've done it so many different ways. So try which one sounds fun to you. You can mind map, right? Just all these different areas of your life and then draw a gazillion circles of all the things that come to mind that are on your top of mind right now. I will pull up a Google spreadsheet or just sheets or whatever in Excel and just brain dump everything I can think of. And then I can just copy and paste on the computer and categorize it in a way that makes sense to me. I might just pull out a regular piece of paper or actually I use my planner so I don't lose it. One of the think and process pages. And I just map it out. What is in my head and plop it into some semblance of categories for whatever makes sense in the moment. Okay, so if you can take kind of your list though, and in the end get to the point where you're identifying what is urgent and important that really needs to happen, what is important but not urgent. Okay, these might be some of those high level goals, maybe some of those business things, right? That if you don't do it, no one's going to say anything, but they're important to you. Urgent but not important, or not important and not urgent. And if you can kind of break it up like that, that will help you start just being aware that you want to start focusing on those important tasks, whether they're urgent or not urgent, and spend less and less time in those not important, not urgent, and not important and urgent tasks. Okay. So that's a 7 habits Stephen Covey quadrant idea, but it's really, really powerful. On a more strategic level, when it comes to figuring out like what matters, I like to really look at things. Again, if you've listened to this before, I've got a gazillion episodes on the podcast like this, and this is what we do in the Next 90 Days program. But starting with my vision for the year, what matters to me? And when it comes to like business stuff specifically, or house stuff, when it comes to house, I'm asking what's the one system or the one thing that if it was better would make everything else go more smoothly. It might be dishes. It might be laundry so people know where their clothes are. It might be just having people put their shoes by the door so that when it's time to leave, it's not so stressful because you know where things are. Or having your diaper bag restocked so when you leave, you know you've got diapers in it. What's the thing that's stressing you out the most right now when it comes to managing household things, and make that the thing that you're focusing on for your home. And then when it comes to business, every 90 days, I like to have a revenue generating activity. So what is something that you could do and start focusing on during that, quiet time or your work time that is going to actually make you money? Because there's so many fun things when you're starting a business that don't actually make you money. And so just identifying that you're going to have something that you're working towards every 90 days and that realm can also help, narrow your focus, narrow that list of things that you're working from. So that is really, when you're starting that business, try and making money, those tasks a priority, which, that's important. Okay, when it comes to lack of motivation, I find that this really takes care of itself if I'm sleeping well. Because when I'm exhausted, I just lack motivation. And that when I'm making progress regularly on these things and seeing and writing down that I'm making progress, like I do those 30-day reviews in the Thriving Motherhood Planner, when I'm doing that, I start to build that energy and the momentum and the excitement and the enthusiasm, and I want to keep going, right? So part of it is just knowing that if you get the ball started, it will keep rolling. If you are just taking those baby steps and also looking behind you and saying, I did this, I did this, I did this, and allow that celebration to happen, because that will keep you moving. Now, I would say that at least half the time, maybe more, I am not feeling necessarily super motivated because I am exhausted. Okay. Or things just happen, right? Like there's so many things that impact how we feel in day-to-day life, whether it's hard things happening with our kids, or a rough patch with our, a fight you had in your marriage, or I don't know, whatever it is, or something with a friend or a sibling. Like there is just so much that happens in the context of regular life that can impact why we may or may not be feeling motivated to just like get up and do something, or why we would want to escape, on our phones or whatever. So for those things, I would say that first of all, having that vision and knowing that it's something that's important to me and it's not a list of shoulds that I'm trying to do, but something I actually want to do, does help. It gives me just that little oomph to want to like tell myself that I know that I want to want this, even if I don't feel like it. So there's that. Are you operating from a vision, from goals and plans and that actually you care about and are not just shoulds? Another thing that I have learned, because I've been building this muscle of doing things that I don't feel like doing for a long time. And I was horrible at it when I first became a mom. And I feel like I'm just starting to see some decent amount of progress in this area of my life. For so long, if I didn't feel like doing it, I just didn't, and I would do something else instead. With the operation of like, I usually want to do something that's good, so I'll just do the thing that's good that I feel like doing. And that gets me so far. But at this point in my life where I am doing business things and I am homeschooling and we have older kids and activities and I have a husband who's busy with church and work things right now. And, the list just goes on, right? We all have our own lists of things going on. I'm finding that I need to do things even when I don't feel like it. And not just do things, but behave in ways, even when I don't feel like it. And the cool thing is I'm realizing, like, I think this is the point all along, right? Like, this is how we become something. This is how we change our characters. Thriving is growing. And for me right now, this is an area where I'm growing. There's so many areas to grow in, but I'm realizing this is an area of like, if I don't feel like doing something, that's okay. I can lean into it and I can cultivate this character of doing things anyway. And having that, I don't know, trust in myself to do the things that I need to do, I want to do, have a reason to do, even when I don't feel like it, and behave in ways that I want to, even when I don't feel like it. So I would say like some mental things that have helped me to make progress in the area, because it is very aspirational and I do not have it mastered. I remind myself that I can do it today. I can make progress on the task that I need to do during quiet time today. I can be disciplined and take a nap and not scroll on my phone today. Like you just make that time frame so short. You don't have to commit to doing it all week or all month or forever. You just need to do it for today, and you can do it today. I'm amazed at how many things I can do because I said I just have to do it today. This works for cleaning the house too, just so you know. Then another thing that can help, again, we're talking about, like, remember at the beginning when I talked about all the little things you can do to shave off your time on riding your bike fast? This is another one of these things that we can do. When the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program, we spent a long time like working through all of these exercises and steps to get to this point where you're building out a daily and a weekly, maybe quarterly, seasonally rhythm to your days, so that you make automated things. So the decision of what you need to do has been made, and it just simplifies things because it's easier to do things when you already have a plan laid out and when you have your system set up and the environment set up to make it easy. And so that a lot of things just flow. And so even though you don't maybe feel like doing it, there's not very much resistance to just do it anyway, because things are pretty much set up for you. You've already decided when and where and who and how, and things are set up for you to flow. And so that's kind of where we want to get to over time. Like, this is a process. We go slow, we make things stick. But long term, like, this is one of the ways that I have found to increase my capacity is to be really committed to this idea of over time building these systems to help simplify my life and to make things more efficient. And so we just want to make the things we want to do easy to do. And so that is something you can, again, this is a long-term 1% tweak over time that adds up and compounds in really big effective ways. Another thing to evaluate, I've already alluded to it, but just to call it out, in this moment, is this a should statement? Is this something you feel like you should be doing? Or is this something that you want to do? Like, you're convicted, you have a good reason why you want to do that thing. And also, kind of the other side of the coin, can you let it go for right now? Does it need to be the thing that you need to do? Did your child stay up all night the night before? You're up like 10, 11 times. That totally happened to me when I had those little kids. Like 4 kids, 3 and under, there was just a season where I would be up all night long, like 11 times a night. And that is not an exaggeration. I just felt like my bed was a trampoline. And that season, like, you just do whatever it takes to get through the day. Anything that sounds fun, you just chase that spark. And when they're sleeping, you're sleeping. So, like, do you just need to give yourself permission to, like, be intentional differently and not move the things forward right now? And then the other thing that's helped me, again, whatever your faith is great, you're welcome here. But for me personally, like, I have been praying to God to help me have an increased capacity and to have, like, his help and power in doing these things in our life, because it feels bigger than me. Really, it does. It feels like too much. I don't think, anyway, it does. It just feels like too much some days. And it can feel like too much because of sleep, or it can feel like too much because it's a lot and we're doing a lot and we're managing a lot. But I have found that on those days that I'm praying and I'm looking and I'm asking, that the help comes, and I am astounded at all that happens with his help. And so whatever your faith is, I would just invite you to tap into that, and ask for help, because it's really, really powerful. And it's made a huge difference for me. Finally, you mentioned on the phone, scrolling on the phone. Yes, when we are tired and it's nap time, I feel like our defenses are down, and it's the easiest time to end up on your phone. Or if you're tired and didn't sleep well, easiest time to waste time on the phone. And so I have set some pretty clear physical and just time boundaries. Again, talk about this in the course. But what I like to do is I call it my vacation hours. And so I have times during the day where I just am not on my phone. I am not beholden to anyone or anything. I don't have to answer to anyone. I am on vacation with my family, giving them my full attention, or with myself, right? Giving myself what I need. Perhaps a nap, or reading like my scriptures and exercising, or getting the business tax that I need to that day. The big 3 for my week, knocking that out. Like, my priorities come before anything on the screen and anybody else's emergencies. And so what I would suggest, like, for my nap time, and like different parts of my day, I have different like you have to do this before you can get on your phone type contingencies. And so for my nap time ones, I need to read an actual book. I need to take a power nap before I can look at my phone. And if it's a day that I am working on things, because I do not work during every nap time. But if it is a day when I know that there's things that I have to do those things first. They're very specific and there's not very many of them, but I have to do those things first. And then I can look at my phone. And as I mentioned, I put it on the other side of the room. Like, I get very clear about the boundaries there. Now, I am reading a fascinating book called How to Break Up with Your Phone, if you're like really wanting to geek out about this. And it's so interesting because the first half of the book is describing all the reasons why our phones are so incredibly addicting and why they've been designed that way and how they've been designed that way. And then the second half is what to do about it. So even, for example, because it's so fascinating and I feel like understanding it just helps you, just take a little more power back in your life. But the idea of like, when you check your phone, you might have a notification of a text or email that you wanted to read or a like or a comment on social media, right? But you also probably won't. And it's that unpredictability of when the reward will come, when we'll get this dopamine hit to our brains because we got that text or that email that keeps us coming back for more often. It's the exact same principle that's used on slot machines, which are highly addictive. It's that unpredictability of when you're going to get the reward that makes them one of the most addictive gambling devices out there, according to this book. I've never used one, but and that same principle is built into our phones. For example, there's lots of different things. And so I think the more educated we can become about why we're on our phones, not that it's just like us, but like that there's actual brain science that is being used at the highest level to, not in a like crazy they're out to get us way, but just there was a lot of intentionality into how these are designed to get us using them, a lot of times to help us, right? They could be for really good things, but if it's coming ahead of what we actually want to be doing, then it's working against us. And so just becoming aware of that and coming up with a plan for yourself, for how you want to manage your phone is a really great way to be intentional with nap time. So we covered a lot today, again, a lot of these different elements or aspects because it's without really, I love these questions. And also I want to ask you many questions in return in answering them. And so also I want it to be generic enough that it can help anyone in this situation. So just to kind of recap about some of these different layers to being intentional with nap time. So exhaustion. Are you tired and do you just need to sleep? If so, that is being productive and intentional because it'll help you have another incredible day. I once heard that a 10-minute power nap is more effective in giving you energy than like a cup of coffee or caffeine, right? So let's harness that. Second of all, consistent progress happens with baby steps. And when we get really clear what we want those baby steps to be, when we can identify what the priority really is for you, that matters so much because it's hard to push through a bunch of should statements, right? And then we can set up the environment to make it easy to do the things that we want to do during nap time. That will go a long way towards helping that time be used well, even if it's just laying the book on your bed. So you're reading a book instead of scrolling, right? And then, we talked about so many things. Maybe you should just listen to the episode again. But lacking a motivation, right? I think the biggest takeaway there is I can do it today, right? Just focus on just today and what you need to do today to live life with the priorities that you have set out. And whether that's deciding it's a rest day or whether it's decided to lean in and knock things out, just focus on doing it for the day and then you can focus on the next day. And set up rules for yourself about your phone. When are you going to use it? When are you not going to use it? And where can you put it so that it's hard to use it when you don't want to? I hope this helps. I hope it's encouraging to you. We have done nap times and now what we call rest and read time. I'm the only one that sleeps during it now, for a decade. And I've had I have lots of emotions about nap time because sometimes it hasn't gone well and sometimes it's gone great. Sometimes I've had a job and worked during that time, like the entire time. I taught an online charter school for a couple years before it was trendy, like way before COVID. And so I worked all nap time. Like sometimes it's really scripted out for us. But I think the important principle is, are you doing something during that time that is going to fill your bucket so you can keep pouring out? Because as moms, especially moms with the little kids, it's a pretty constant pouring out in those early years with them. And so just just take a moment to reflect about, is nap time doing something that is refueling you for the rest of the day and allowing you to keep going until we get to bedtime? For more strategic ideas, I know I have shared a lot about the course, but you can check out my workshop, 3 Secrets to More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. And in this, I will share, more deeper ideas about how to practically get things done as a mom. Because I get that. We don't have any family nearby. I never had grandparents to help me. And, I homeschool my kids and work in the cracks of my day. So I've really honed this system about how to get things done. So what does that look like? And then you'll have an opportunity to grab the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program if you want it. And if not, you just take all the practical advice that you can and start applying it and making, those improvements in your life as well. So have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Today, I'm excited to share with you about the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. It is a self-paced online course with lots of interaction from me that has transformed the lives of women from all around the world as they have learned to build unique family systems that support them in their own unique life circumstances, that allow the necessary and essential things of life to get done and leave time and energy to do what matters most to them. I'm going to let some women who have been through the program tell you a little bit more about their experience now.
Just mucking through the day was just survival. And then I was like, the thought of trying to do anything extra was like, well, that's just never gonna happen.
I think with Made to Soar, I don't know, I was probably hoping that it'd be the magic bullet for morning.
I mean, we had no systems in our house. I mean, we had no routines. Like, we were...
How can I infuse meaning into my life? And even if I do the same thing, how can I think about it differently so that I'm feeling fulfilled?
And so that was my goal in joining the Next 90 Days, was to figure out how to kind of handle all of these different domains. How do I become intentional with all of these things and make sure that I'm meeting my own expectations?
Now I have systems set in place that, like, things like the laundry are just automatic, things get done.
Because I was able to have the foundation of some of these systems and routines, when things got crazy, I could still go back to those and be like, okay, well, at least the laundry got done. At least my kids got fed. At least I read the Bible and did my workout today.
So it helped me go through a couple big moves and big changes and to keep some level of stability for the family.
Figuring out how do I homeschool? How do I do it with consistency and some level of discipline? And then how do I build a business and still find meaningful work outside of my home? All of that, I wouldn't have known how to organize it. It was all kind of just like spaghetti in my brain.
With Made to Soar, just gaining clarity about what I wanted my days and weeks to look like, my hours and my spare minutes.
This is how we get to where we want to go, and just changing those expectations has helped me to be happier.
I have power to change my circumstances, right? That I can put in new routines. I can solve some of these problems. I can think about things differently and realize that I have power to be in a better place.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.